There will come a moment in your life, maybe it already has, when everything in you wants to shut down. When the weight gets so heavy, you can barely breathe. When the people you trusted have vanished. When the goals you set feel foolish. When the pain feels like it's swallowing you whole. And in that moment, a whisper will rise inside you. Just give up. But let me ask you something. What if that moment is the test? What if that moment isn't trying to break you, but reveal you? See, most people think success is about talent, luck, or timing. It's not. It's about endurance. The ones who make it aren't the smartest. They aren't the strongest. They are the ones who didn't quit. When everyone else tapped out, they stayed. When the storm got worse, they stood taller. When the silence got louder, they leaned in. You can't give up. And deep down, you already know that. That's why you're here. That's why you're listening. Because something inside you still believes that your story isn't over. That everything you've been through has been preparing you for something bigger, something you can't see yet, but feel. And you're not crazy for feeling it. You're just getting close. You see, the most dangerous enemy you'll ever face isn't outside. It's the voice inside that says you're done. That voice doesn't show up when things are easy. It shows up right before your breakthrough. It's the last test, the final wall, and how you respond in that moment defines everything. So don't flinch. Don't fold. Don't let what you feel dictate what you do. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be relentless. This isn't about hype. This isn't about motivation. This is about your life. About the version of you haven't even met yet. And that version is waiting on the other side of you, not giving up. You're going to have moments where everything inside you cracks. Moments where the weight of life feels like it's pressing down on your chest and you can't take one more step forward. You will break. You will fall to your knees mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And I want you to know something. That's okay. You are allowed to break. You are allowed to scream. You are allowed to cry into your pillow at 3 a.m., wondering how you're going to make it through tomorrow. That doesn't make you weak. That doesn't make you a failure. That makes you human. And being human means carrying a heart that wasn't designed to be made of steel, but forged through fire. You're not made to be indestructible. You're run to be unstoppable. There's a difference. See, we're living in a world that worships perfection. You scroll through social media and it's filled with polished images of people who never seem to fall, never seem to struggle. But that's a lie. Everyone breaks. Everyone reaches a point where they wonder if they have what it takes. The difference between those who rise and those who stay down isn't strength. It's the refusal to quit. Breaking doesn't mean you give up. It means you've hit a limit. And limits aren't the end. They're the beginning of the next level. When your mind says, that's all I got, your spirit whispers, then it's time to grow. That's what pressure does. That's what hardship creates. It carves space inside of you for strength that you didn't even know you had. But you'll never meet that strength if you quit now. You can crawl, you can move slow, you can take a breath and catch your balance. But you keep going. That's the only rule. You don't have to be okay every day. You don't have to be powerful all the time, but you do have to keep showing up, keep standing back up, keep fighting for your life, especially when it hurts the most. Because what's waiting for you isn't just success or achievement. It's you, the real you, the version of you that's free, the version of you that doesn't need approval or permission, the version of you who knows exactly who they are because they've been through the fire and survived it. In that version, they're not found on the mountaintop. They're born in the valley. They're born when your knees hit the floor and you're tempted to stay there. That's where warriors are made. Not in the applause, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows when no one is watching and everything in you says stop. But one tiny voice says go. That whisper, that decision, that's where everything changes. There's this lie that says, if you're strong, you don't break. But that's not strength. That's denial. Real strength is facing the pain and walking through it anyway. Real strength is saying, yes, I'm broken right now, but this is temporary. I'm not staying here. You're allowed to have days where you doubt. You're allowed to have nights where you crumble. But you are not allowed to give up. Not on your dream, not on your purpose, and not on yourself. Because here's the truth, you've already survived so much. More than you give yourself credit for. Think about the moments you thought would destroy you, but you're still here. Think about the days you thought would break you, but you're still breathing. That isn't weakness. That's power. That's resilience. That's proof that whatever comes next, you can handle it. But only if you don't quit. So the next time you feel like giving up, don't ask yourself if it's fair. Don't ask yourself if it's hard. Ask yourself if it's worth it. And if it is, then stand up, wipe your face, breathe deep, and take the next step, no matter how small. You don't need a plan for the whole journey. You just need to not stop walking. You are allowed to break, but you are not allowed to stay broken. You are not allowed to quit, because the world needs what you carry. And you haven't come this far to only come this far. So get back up, again, and again, and again. That's how greatness is built. Excuses are seductive. They sound reasonable. They sound safe. They make you feel like you're protecting yourself, like you're doing the smart thing, by waiting, by not trying too hard, by staying where it's comfortable. But here's the truth, most people won't tell you. Excuses don't protect you, they weaken you. Every single one of them. Every time you say, I'm too tired, or I don't have enough time, or I'm not ready, what you're really doing is handing over your power. You're giving up control. You're placing your life in the hands of circumstances instead of owning your choices. You're building walls, not to guard your soul, but to trap your potential. Excuses are subtle. They wear a mask that looks like logic. They'll tell you things like you just need a break, or you can start next week, or maybe this isn't your thing. And when you buy into them, they give you temporary comfort, but long-term regret. And regret is far heavier than discipline. You think you're avoiding pain, but what you're really doing is delaying it. And when it comes back stronger, because now it's mixed with disappointment. Here's what no one talks about. The more excuses you make, the more powerless you feel. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens gradually. One skipped workout, one postponed goal, one more day of telling yourself later. And before you know it, you've taught yourself that settling is normal, that giving up is acceptable, that you don't really expect much from yourself anymore. And that is how you lose the battle. Not in one big moment, but in 1,000 small ones. Not because you didn't have what it takes, but because you chose comfort over commitment, emotion over discipline, excuses over execution. You want to grow? You want to win? You want to walk into the future you've been dreaming about? Then stop feeding yourself stories that shrink you. Stop rationalizing mediocrity. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need ideal conditions. You don't need everyone's approval. You need grit. You need guts. And you need to be honest with yourself. Because deep down, you already know what you should be doing. You know what needs to change. But knowing isn't the problem. Doing. And excuses are the bridge between knowledge and regret. The longer you stand on that bridge, the further away your goals drift. Think about how many opportunities you've talked yourself out of. How many chances passed you by while you were waiting to feel more confident, more prepared, more worthy? Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes from action. Preparation is a moving target. You'll never feel ready enough and worth. You don't earn it through excuses. You remember it by doing the hard things anyway. That's how you build strength. Not by avoiding discomfort, but by stepping into it over and over. Because every time you say no more excuses, you reclaim a piece of your identity. You prove to yourself that you're the kind of person who follows through, that you're someone who keeps promises to others, sure, but more importantly, to yourself. That kind of integrity is rare. Most people live their lives in a loop, waiting, hoping, justifying. But you're not here to live on repeat. You're here to evolve, to stretch, to rise. And that can only happen when you stop letting your feelings dictate your future. You won't always feel like showing up. Do it anyway. You won't always feel strong. Be strong anyway. You won't always feel inspired. Get to work anyway. Discipline doesn't require permission. It requires a decision. And look, I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. You'll battle your mind every day. You'll wrestle with doubt, fear, exhaustion. But that's the price of freedom. Not the freedom to quit and run and hide. The freedom to choose who you become. Excuses are heavy. They will weigh down your future. So drop them. Replace them with action. Replace them with effort. Replace them with truth. Because when you stop making excuses, something powerful happens. You stop waiting for your life to change, and you become the reason it does. You don't need perfect circumstances. You need relentless commitment. So stop defending your limits. Stop negotiating with your dreams. No more if only. No more someday. Choose now. Choose courage. Choose growth. Because when you remove excuses, what's left is your power. Use it. Comfort is the most dangerous trap you'll ever face, and the scariest part is it doesn't feel like a trap. It feels good. It feels safe. It feels like home. Comfort wraps itself around you like a warm blanket, whispering lies that sound like wisdom. You've done enough. You don't need to push today. It's too risky out there. And little by little, without even realizing it, you begin to settle. Comfort will seduce you into a life you'll regret, not because it's filled with pain, but because it's void of purpose. You don't feel the damage at first. In fact, it feels like a reward. You worked hard, so you rest longer. You sacrifice, so you indulge a little more. And that's fine until days become weeks, and weeks become years. Until the fire inside you becomes a flicker. Until the dream you once chased becomes a memory you talk about, instead of a goal you fight for. People don't lose themselves in chaos. They lose themselves in convenience. It's not the storm that kills the dream. It's the quiet. It's the slow drowning in average. The slow forgetting of what you were capable of. And here's the cruel irony. Comfort doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you small. You stop risking. You stop growing. You stop feeling fully alive. And that's when regret creeps in. Not loud, but quiet. It doesn't hit you like a crash. It whispers in your quiet moments. When you see someone doing what you used to dream about, when you scroll past a life that looks a little like the one you were supposed to build, when you're alone and there's no noise to distract you from the question echoing in your soul, what if I didn't settle? Comfort is deceptive like that. It looks like peace, but it's really paralysis. It convinces you to make decisions that are easy, not right. It rewards you in the short term and robs you in the long run. And by the time you realize it, you've built a routine around shrinking yourself. But here's the thing, comfort didn't force you. It invited you, it gave you options. And every time you chose the easier path, every time you avoided resistance, you were building your own prison, one small decision at a time. That's how people end up living lives that look fine on the outside but feel hollow on the inside. You were not built for easy. You were not designed to stay the same. Growth isn't supposed to feel safe. Transformation doesn't happen in the shallow end. If you want to become someone you've never been, you're going to have to do things you've never done. That means getting uncomfortable on purpose. That means choosing the harder road, because that's where the growth is. That means giving up the fantasy that the life you want is going to come without resistance. The truth is, the version of you that's addicted to comfort has to die so the version of you that's addicted to purpose can be born. And yes, that death is going to be uncomfortable. It should be. But what's the alternative? Living every day just to get through it. Trading your spark for security. Playing it safe until your time runs out. You're going to suffer either way. You can suffer from the pain of growth or the ache of regret. One hurts now, the other hurts forever. Choose wisely, because 10 years from now, you won't remember how tired you were. You won't remember how nervous you felt. You won't remember how uncertain the future seemed. but you will remember that you either did something about it or you didn't. And let's be honest, you weren't put on this earth just to pay bills and stay safe. You're here to build, to lead, to push past the noise in your head that tells you to settle, to refuse a life that looks good but feels empty. And that kind of life, that kind of freedom, it doesn't come to the ones who stay in comfort. It comes to the ones who disrupt it, who get uncomfortable enough to evolve. So today, make the uncomfortable decision. Say no to easy. Say yes to the path that challenges you. Say yes to growth, because the regret of not becoming who you were meant to be will always hurt more than the temporary discomfort it takes to get there. Comfort is cheap. Growth is earned. Stop trading your potential for what feels easy now. Get uncomfortable, get bold, and refuse to let the life you dream about become the life you never lived. Resilience isn't something you stumble upon one day and suddenly become unbreakable. It's not a lightning strike. It's not a switch you flip once and never think about again. Resilience is a decision, a daily one. It's the choice you make every morning, every hour, every second to keep going, even when everything in you says stop. Most people think resilience is a moment, a grand act, a huge comeback after some big setback. But that's just the highlight reel. What they don't see are the thousands of quiet decisions that came before it. The mornings you woke up with doubt in your chest but got out of bed anyway. The nights you couldn't sleep because your mind was racing, but you still showed up the next day. The times you didn't have answers, didn't feel strong, didn't see progress, but you refused to back down. That's real resilience. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's consistent. It's boring sometimes. It's doing the work, not because you're inspired, but because you're committed. And that's where most people get it wrong. They wait for motivation to make a move. They wait for perfect circumstances to try again. But the truth is, resilience doesn't wait. It acts. It doesn't need conditions. It creates them. You don't become resilient by reading quotes or watching someone else rise. You become resilient by living it, by choosing it over and over, especially when it's hardest, especially when it's quiet, especially when no one's watching, because that's where your character is built. In the invisible moments where quitting looks like the easier path and you say no, resilience is showing up broken and trying anyway. It's knowing that life isn't fair, but refusing to let that be your excuse. It's failing and failing again and still believing that this isn't the end of your story. It's not about being fearless. It's about doing it scared. It's about doing it tired. It's about doing it imperfectly but refusing to walk away. You will not wake up one day and suddenly feel bulletproof. You will not magically reach a place where struggle disappears. But you can wake up every day and decide, I'm not quitting. I'm not folding. I'm not going to let this break me. Maybe I don't know what comes next. Maybe I don't feel strong today, but I can take one step. I can keep moving. I can keep choosing to stand. You want to know how strong someone is? Don't look at their best days. Look at their worst ones. Look at the days they had every reason to give up and still found a reason to keep going. That's what separates survivors from the defeated. Not talent, not intelligence, not even opportunity. It's endurance. The willingness to outlast the pain, the doubt, the fear. And make no mistake, resilience doesn't mean you won't break. You will. You'll fall, you'll hit the wall, you'll question everything. But what matters is that you don't stay there. You don't let that be the period at the end of your sentence. You get back up. You rebuild. You return stronger, not because it's easy, but because it's who you are choosing to become. This world doesn't reward people who dabble in commitment. It rewards the relentless, the ones who don't just chase success on good days, but who drag themselves through the dark ones with grit and determination. You can't fake that. You can't shortcut that. You earn it through every small decision to keep showing up when it would be easier not to. So don't ask yourself if you're resilient. That's the wrong question. Ask yourself, will I choose resilience today? And then do it again tomorrow. And again the day after that. because that's the secret. That's the path. Not a one-time explosion of strength, but a daily decision to live with resolve. Resilience isn't about being immune to struggle. It's about refusing to surrender to it. And the more you choose it, the stronger you become. Not all at once, but one choice at a time. That's how warriors are made. That's how battles are won. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. When the world isn't clapping for you, but you keep clapping for yourself. You want to rise? Start choosing resilience daily, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, because that's when it matters most. There's a moment no one talks about, a space in your journey that feels silent, heavy, and invisible. It's the place where there are no fans, no praise, no recognition, no one's watching, no one's validating your effort. It's just you. You and your work. You and your doubts. You and the choice to keep going. Or not. And in that moment, what you do matters more than anything. Because your legacy isn't built when you're on stage. It's built when the lights are off and no one is clapping. It's easy to show up when you're being celebrated. It's easy to perform when people are watching. But the real test of who you are, what you're made of, happens when it's quiet, when it's just you and the grind. That's when your character is carved. That's when your values are proven. That's when your legacy is written. Line by line, in silence. Everyone wants greatness. Few are willing to be invisible long enough to earn it. What you do when no one is cheering reveals everything. Do you still show up? Do you still push? Do you still give your best even when it feels like no one notices? Because if you only perform for the crowd, you'll never become who you were meant to be. The crowd is inconsistent. The applause fades. And if your identity is built on noise, you'll fall apart in the silence. But if you can master the silence, if you can show up at 5 a.m. when it's just you in the darkness, if you can push through the loneliness, the self-doubt, the invisible hours, then you build something unshakable. You build trust in yourself. You build discipline that doesn't need external motivation. And that is legacy. That's what lasts. Because legacy isn't a moment. It's not one big success. It's a pattern. It's what you repeatedly do when no one's forcing you, praising you, or even acknowledging you. It's who you are when you're alone with the choice to rise or retreat. Think about every person who left a mark on this world. Do you think their journey was filled with cheering crowds every step of the way? Of course not. Most of them were ridiculed, misunderstood, ignored. They had to dig deep and keep going with nothing but belief and conviction to fuel them. They did the work no one saw so they could live the results no one could ignore. You don't build legacy in comfort. You build it in silence. You build it in the late nights, the early mornings, the painful rejections, the countless reps, the unseen battles. And that means you can't afford to rely on applause. You have to learn to be your own fire, your own push, your own reason why. You want to create something timeless? Start acting like it before anyone notices. Stop waiting for recognition and start recognizing yourself. Every small win, every bit of growth, every time you show up, even when you didn't want to, you are building something powerful, and no one needs to clap for you for that to matter. Let others chase attention. You chase excellence. Let others seek praise. You seek purpose. Because the people who are remembered, the ones who create legacy, aren't always the loudest. They're the most consistent. They're the ones who decided, long before anyone cared, that their work mattered, that their integrity mattered, that how they showed up in the shadows would determine what they built in the light. This is your reminder, you don't need permission to be great. You don't need a crowd to become who you were destined to be. You just need to show up today, again tomorrow, and the next day. Not because anyone is watching, but because you know that the life you're building deserves everything you've got, whether anyone ever says thank you or not. So when the applause stops, and it will keep going, when the support disappears and it might keep pushing, when it feels like no one sees the effort, no one understands the grind, no one values the hustle, keep showing up anyway. Because that's where legacy lives. Not in the noise, but in the discipline. Not in the attention, but in the consistency. What you do when no one is cheering is what will echo long after you're gone. So ask yourself, what kind of legacy are you building in the silence? Then answer with action every day. No matter what. This life will test you. It will stretch you, break you, and dare you to quit. It will whisper to you in your darkest moments that no one is watching, that no one cares, that none of it matters. But here's the truth, it all matters. Every decision, every step, every refusal to give up. It matters more than you know, because you weren't built to fold. You weren't made to run from the fire. You were made to rise from it. Not once, but again and again, until giving up is no longer an option embedded in your DNA. Resilience is not a gift. It's a choice. And greatness doesn't happen by chance. It happens in the discipline of showing up when it hurts, standing tall when it's silent, and moving forward even when you feel like you have nothing left to give. So when life hits, and it will, don't retreat. Don't shrink. Don't silence your potential because the world isn't clapping yet. Stand up, dig deep, keep pushing. Be relentless, be undeniable, because the legacy you leave will not be determined by what you dreamed about, or even what you started. It will be defined by what you refuse to quit. So don't give up. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. You've come too far. You've fought too hard, and you're not finished yet.